What's going on, EYG? Aaron here, along with a few members from the EYG team. It's going to be Jab, the leader of Frostlight, and we also have Impaler, co-leader from CWA. How's it going, y'all?
Good. How about yourself?
Good. What's up, Jab?
Not much, man. How's it going?
Good. Glad to have you guys here. So the big reason you guys are here, obviously, is to talk about base building. I know you guys are very crucial to what the EYG does among leagues and so on, and you're one of few base builders. So I really just brought you guys here to help our people just kind of get a basic understanding of base building. So with that said, I guess we'll just kind of jump right into it. Where do you guys start?
It's a very open question. It's basically start by your queen, your CC, your king, basically how you want to build your base depending on each town hall, and then just making passing difficult based off of how you want to design the base.
Right. How do you guys determine where you guys place walls?
Well, I think getting a general idea of the style of bases that are working helps for your basic design, whether it be the 2 or 3 separate compartment bases, or whether it be, oddly shaped ones that have large open areas in different places. And then using that as your template to begin to place your walls.
Gotcha.
Building a base is more of a living, breathing animal, in a sense, if you think about it like that. I used to draw up the base before I did it. So like I'd have an idea in my head, thinking at work, and I'd be like, oh, that's a great idea. I should do that. So I'd draw them up or kind of implement that one part of the base and kind of build around that one style. So I'll see that while I'm looting, or I'll see that in a war, and I'll be like, ooh, I like that, let's do that. And it all onto exterior tiles. So like, especially for like Town Hall 10 or 11, creating a place that wall breakers into. And I mean that by you've got one single empty tile space between your the 2 walls, and I'll have to upload a photo for it, but it allows a space where wall breakers can't actually break into. They have to actually target walls with only defenses behind them.
Right.
So they won't actually target anything else, even if it has an elixir collector, elixir sword, something like that behind it. It will go to great range to find a wall with the defense behind it.
So what you're saying is
that's basically what it kind of breaks down to.
Right. So what you're saying is pretty much the wall breakers only target walls with defenses in it. They don't target walls with anything that's not a defensive building. Is that what you're saying?
True, and that does kind of come more into play at Town Hall 11, where you've got people using Gobo with that 2-star with Town Hall 10. I mean, which comes into play more with like league style attacks, because now everybody's running anti-3s in regular wars. But with that, it kind of breaks up the whole attack. It kind of destroys their whole plan. They've got to come up with, do I use a jump or an extra jump because I can't break into this part of the base, and you're kind of pushing them toward exactly where you want them to be.
Gotcha.
You got to kind of control the whole attack.
So is that Impaler? Is that what you do as well? Is that how you kind of structure your base? Is from seeing other bases, or do you literally just go from scratch, just place some stuff down and
No, I completely agree. I will see even just a corner of a base or a small setup of walls in one tiny portion of a base. And when I watch the Troop AI and its behavior around that portion of the base, and it's off, or it causes them to do things that people don't want them to do, I absolutely take that and use that as a starting point for a base design. Or I'm working on a base and I'll add that or incorporate that design into the base. So it's very fluid and organic. You begin with one portion that inspires you and kind of build off of that, or take pieces from different bases that you find works well to construct an overall design.
Gotcha. I mean, yeah, that is, it sounds like key, to make sure that your base is original, not stealing the entire base, but to use that as a foundation,
Absolutely. So. And a great example is using that same style and people using, a portion of a base, is you often see in a lot of designs the 7x4 double compartment on the corner. So it keeps the air defense away from your queen walk, but it also creates more compartments that make it difficult for your bow wedge attacks or anything that, doesn't fare well against multiple compartment bases.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's, we kind of cover like basic wall placement, and I know there's so many different elements that we just can't cover it all, right? But I do think if anybody does have questions, these guys are more than willing to help. With that said, I guess we can kind of move into how you place your defenses. And so with that said, do you guys have, can you guys please explain to the crowd as to what you guys go through when placing your defenses?
I don't know, can you hear me right now?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So as far as defenses go, I think a great place to start would be more of your trash defense, which kind of boils right down to your mortars and I guess your tetras, and how you place them and how you use them to kind of mess up pathing. So using those to putting them in front of cannons or archer towers to kind of offset your golems away from a valuable target. I think that's a great place to start. And then you've got air defenses, wizard towers. Those are always stressed in builder guides, but I see people that are trying to, start off building, and they try to understand it, or they begin to understand it, and they still place them too close to each other. Like if you put a wizard tower down and you put an air defense down, you tap on that wizard tower, you see that ring, and that ring is touching the air defenses, or the air defense. That's a no-no, very big no-no in almost all cases.
Is that because you don't want the wizard tower, hitting the hound if it's circling over the AD?
Yes, that's absolutely it. And it gets even deeper. So you've got your wizard towers, right? And I personally think in most cases, your wizard tower is one of your most strong defenses, 9 all the way up to 11, only because that really targets multiple troops. Right. So, and does a lot of damage. I mean, these things can take out a wizard in 2-3 shots.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
yep.
And then it also takes down balloons, and I can't remember, but 3-4 shots.
Yeah.
So, if you think about it, and most of it comes down to, Lalo. You've got your sweet Lalo. Blowers pushing toward a wizard tower is immensely helpful. Like you take a blower and you push it towards your wizard towers that are away from your your air defenses, so your hound isn't there to cover while your balloons are kind of flying around, and it pushes them right into those wizard towers, and they're trying to get that archer tower that's over to the right, but the wizard tower is just going to smack them down. That's basically what you want.
Yeah, that's
a big... I'm sorry?
The other aspect that it makes them so strong is they have 2,000 hit points. 2,000 hit points. I mean, your cannon has 1,500. It's got a 25% higher hit points than most of your other defensive buildings.
Absolutely.
The only other defensive building that is in the same range is your Expos at like 3,100 hit points. And people don't usually realize that the hit points of a defensive building makes it also a very strong building. And absolutely, the opponent's troops are spending more time taking that building out while your other defenses are beating them down.
And that leads perfectly into the next part of it is a lot of people are so hesitant to touch two defensive buildings. You don't want a cannon touching an arch tower. You don't want one building touching another. And I stray from that a little bit, and that's something that I've learned from other base builders as well. But you really need to focus on, not only for defenses, for everything. You kind of want to focus on on how much it takes to take down a building. And you've got, like you were just saying, your bows and your wizard towers, they've got more hit points, right? And I kind of put everything toward like loons, but it applies to a lot of different things. Boulder skips as well. Like you're skipping over something in that building behind there won't go away or won't get fully destroyed. So if I'm going to touch two defensive buildings, I like to make sure that the amount of loon drops that are put down onto, let's just say, the cannon that's touching a wizard tower or the other defensive building won't take down the other one as well. And when I do that, I mainly only do it to one or two buildings, one or two times in the base. You really don't want two defensive buildings touching, but
and you got to think
a lot more concentrated DPS.
Yeah, well, and you got to think too. I mean, I know, like you said, the bowler bounce. If you're good enough when you hit it directly in the middle of those two bases, those two defenses, you can take them both down with the same bowler bounce
and more. Yeah, it all comes down to, which is another thing. Bowler pathing is crazy, but again, your what's it called? Free space where the boulders won't go to two tiles. They won't target those two tiles, so they'll go somewhere else. So really kind of passing it out and getting it so that your boulders won't skip too far and to allow them to move toward where they can do more damage to the base.
Right. Any thoughts, Empower?
But I was going to say, you do have to keep in mind, though, that, following the general rule of trying not to keep two defensive structures touching is that because of the way that troop AI behaves and targets groups of buildings and ignores smaller groups or individual buildings, you definitely want to touch non-defensive structures to defensive structures so that you can increase your groupings of buildings and cause troops to path in the direction that you want them to.
Okay, right, and pretty much kind of keeping them held up before they get to that defensive structure, so that they can get beat on a few times. Is that what you're saying?
That too as well. I mean, the common knowledge one is your storages, your gold and elixir storages, and your dark elixir storage. Very high hit point buildings, and it takes troops quite a while to get through one of those or multiple of them. And at the same time, as long as you're having multiple defensive structures attacking the troops while they're doing that, you're creating a better defense for your base overall.
Right. Absolutely. And I always called trash buildings, like I heard jab call it, I always called them things that aren't defenses. And I know that they, like you kind of touched on them, they are an important part of, when it comes to laying defenses and kind of keeping them protected. But what do you guys do with those buildings outside the walls?
Well, I think outside the walls, it's really dependent on causing your opponent's troops to split apart. I mean, no matter what type of attack you're trying to defend against, air or hogs or bowlers or whatever, one of the best things that can happen is that their troops just split up and divide, and their army becomes just too spread out to defend itself and attack efficiently.
Right.
And so if you can use the outside buildings to cause troops to split instead of actually running into the base, you're increasing your chances of a good defense.
Absolutely.
I think more like the way that I do it, because I like to categorize things. I kind of categorize it into your regular trash buildings and then your larger trash buildings. You got your town hall, you got your laboratory, and you've got your camps. And I see a lot of people put their camps all together, which, everybody's done it. They put their camps all together, but those are extremely important into pathing. Most every base, unless it's a certain style or the layout doesn't really work for it, I put army camps on all four corners, but I don't put them directly at the corner. I kind of put them so that like if you got your queen walk, she takes down that army camp, and you want her to go to the other direction. I put more buildings onto the other side of that army camp so that she will pass the wrong way for that attacker. You got to kind of be sly. You got to be. You got to use because it's true. It's building numbers, not building size, that the AI goes off of. At least that I've seen. So I'll put an extra builder's hut on the other side of that army camp, and all of a sudden you want her to walk left, she'll walk right. It all comes down to that, and placing. A lot of people will do placing their buildings 2 tiles away from the walls, which is great because you never know where your bomb traps are going to be, your touches are going to be, but allowing places for putting some defenses or some trash buildings touching the outer walls, and then you've got a couple spaces where you've got a Tesla trap or a double giant bomb trap, and it just creates that uncomfortable feeling of, hey, what's behind there?
Right.
And also, I mean, keeping those buildings instead of just keeping a 2 gap between your outside buildings and placing a builder's hut, connecting those 2 buildings instead, it now becomes a group of 3 buildings, not lone individual buildings. And those groups of 3 buildings are going to draw troops to AI to that grouping of buildings as opposed to a single building right beside them.
Absolutely. I mean, you can have a very compact base and make it look absolutely huge just because of the way that you separate your trash buildings in more of an even but disorderly fashion across the base. I mean, you can cover up almost the entire lay of the land with your trash around your, compact or even not compact base, but you want to make it difficult. You see those bases where they've got the walls all across the outside. You can only place it in the little area on the edge. That's kind of what you want to do, make it uncomfortable. You have to place your troops very far away from the inside of the base because it's harder to know where they're exactly going to pass. I mean, you've got people's sausage fingers trying to touch a screen, and it comes into play. That really does.
And I mean, you could think about it almost, I think every person out there has seen The Price is Right and the Plinko board. When they let the chip go at the top, it's kind of easy to tell what direction it's going to go in the beginning. But the further on that chip goes down the board and has less influence other than the way it's going to behave, the less likely you have any idea what's going to happen and what direction they're going to go, and gives the attacker way less control over their army.
Mm-hmm. And since we're still on the topic of, trash buildings and as well as defensive buildings, creating a high DPS zone is absolutely key, like making them more inaccessible, because you've got two key things, I guess more than two, but the first things that you look at in the base are, where's the queen, or where's the infernos, or where's the eagle, and kind of making it so that there's a high DPS zone away from where your main kill squad's going to go. And that comes really in play, or at least easier to see in a symmetrical base. So, at least for Town Hall 9, because that's what I've got envisioned in my head, but you've got a very symmetrical Town Hall 9 base. You've got an offset queen on one side. Most times, at least for hog attacks, they're going to go for that queen. They're going to get the CC, they're going to break in, whatever they need to do to kind of get inside. And then on the other end, you've got one extra cannon in the corner there, right? You've got a cannon, right? You've got two cannons next to an archer tower, and you put an extra cannon there, and that causes a lot of difficulty for those hogs trying to come through. That extra DPS will kill, sometimes it'll kill a hog through a heel, depending on bombs or whatever happens to them. Also a wizard tower. Great thing would be placing, splash defense near point defense. And then again with trash buildings, covering your trash buildings, or at least the majority of them. It's okay to give some away, but most of your trash buildings, and I want to kind of point toward mainly your high hit point buildings, like your storages and your town hall and your lab. Those absolutely, without a doubt, should all be covered by an archer tower or a cannon and air defenses, because that causes people to have to use more troops in that area to pass in or whatever.
Right. Yeah, you generally overall do not want to give away any free buildings,
especially your town hall on an anti-3.
I feel like that really applies down at 9 and 10, but once you get up to like the Town Hall 11, I feel like there's always, it's always good to have trash buildings outside to kind of deter your troops from making center. I've always find those bases to be hardest, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
And that kind of breaks up into two. Like, you've got your anti-2s and your anti-3s at Town Hall 11. Who knows at Town Hall 12, but at Town Hall 11, you've got your anti-2s. You don't want to give away extra percentage. You really don't, because you're planning, or you're building this entire base to protect 10D11. And what's most important in 10D11s? Your town hall not being destroyed, or percentage. Those are the two things that you want to kind of detour from. Is they have to either get the town hall or get percentage.
Oh.
And that's what you really want to focus on. And with your anti-3s, it just comes back to the regular plays.
Well, and while you said it, Jab and Powler, can you please share with the crowd what anti-2 and anti-3 means for those who don't know?
The difference between anti-2 and anti-3, and I'm gonna leave this gray area, is your general overall look is a town hall, or an anti-2 is where you're not leaving your town hall easily gotten. It's going to take some effort for this person to get the town hall, and anti-3 is not so much concerned about protecting the town hall, only because you expect them to get the town hall and you expect them to get 50% hit damage pretty easily. So you want to make it as hard as you can for them to get that last star. So your whole base is designed around defending against one star. Not defending against being attacked, but defending against getting that last star.
And so I guess knowing that, why wouldn't everybody just use an anti-3? You know, if they don't want to be 3-starred, in what scenario would you find yourself using either anti-2 or anti-3?
Jeff pointed it out earlier. It depends on whether you find that when you're facing in a regular war or in your league matches, how often Town Hall 10s are attacking your Town Hall 11 base. And if they're attacking your base at a higher percentage of time, where I would say at least 40% or 30%, then you should think about designing something where the Town Hall is not easily available, so that you can potentially defend against some of these Town Hall 10 attacks. Because if they 2-star you, then it allows the Town Hall 11s to strategize with a 3-star attack instead of strategizing with what's safe here and get my 2 stars.
Gotcha. And then I guess...
And I kind of want to add in there, sorry about that, but with your Town Hall, with every Town Hall, I guess, when you're deciding where to put your Town Hall, you want to look at the base and see where you're weakest at, right? Or at least where the attacker is going to hit, 60, 70% of the time they're going to attack from this side, or even after you've built the base and you see, oh, they're attacking from this point. Well, you kind of want to put your Town Hall at the other end of there. And it kind of blends in where you want to protect against that very last star. And it comes into play, and I know it happens to everybody. It just happened to me in a war. You've got your hogs. You go in. You get the most valuable parts of the base. You get down, the eagle, or you get down the queen and everything. And your hogs go in, but they don't fully get the whole base. Well, you want to get that you want to get that percentage, but it's hard to get that last that Town Hall, because you still have, a couple archer towers and air defense at the very end, where it's making it hard for the attacker to kind of sputter into that last extra star, or even 2 stars. You can't even do 1 star on the attack. That happens all the time, and you see it, but it's mainly because of the Town Hall placement.
So we're saying, kind of tie what you said earlier. So would you say it's smart to put the Town Hall away from the queen on the opposite side? Because as you said, most of the time they do make entry where the queen is.
Yeah, and that mostly comes into play Town Hall 9, Town Hall 10, and Town Hall 11. But with your bow witch attacks, at least for me, when I go to attack a bow witch, and I've seen a lot of people that do this, you mainly want to get that eagle, because and placing your eagle away from your queen, another great idea with your CC in between, because it causes you have to get further into a base, and you have to decide which end to kind of go to, especially for your ring and moat bases. The attacker's going to try to get that eagle, and you've got your queen at the other end. So basically, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but basically wherever you're weakest to at each Town Hall, or with each attack that you're trying to defend, you kind of want to you want to push your Town Hall toward the other end, at least for anti-3-star bases.
Gotcha. So, and then lastly, what's the biggest deciding factor as to where you put the CC, the clan castle?
Well, I think rule number 1 is make sure that it's not lurable easily. If somebody can drop an archer or a goblin or a barbarian, or even one hog that can just go in there and lure everything out and make it easily destroyed, it basically makes the strength of that building negligible. So for sure, make sure it's not easily lurable.
And I do want to add, how you'll be looking at a base and you've got that one single cannon that's outside. And you're like, if I destroy that one single cannon with a couple of hogs, the remaining amount of hogs will go in and, lure that CC. A great way to stop that or kind of, trick the enemy is putting a couple of Teslas behind there, away from, to kind of distract them, and also kill more hogs and make it kind of a useless waste of troop space. I mean, even 5 troop space is extremely valuable in almost any attack. So, eliminating wherever you can it was a great tactic. So,
gotcha. Maybe we should change topics a little bit and go into, I guess, trap placement. How do you guys think trap placement should be placed?
Oh, I love trap placement. So on this, for this style, of a base, or for the Town Hall 9s at the very least, even going up to Town Hall 10, Town Hall 11, traps on the outside, you're looking to kill your witches, which might go away once the buff the witch buff comes out, but you're basically trying to kill witches, kill hogs, kill any of the outer lying troops. Placing your Teslas on the outside with a mortar across it, and then putting your bomb in between there, great. It also causes troops like your balloons, your hounds, or your hogs to have to come outside of the base while still being attacked from the inside. Great way to kind of peter out those kind of attacks, your Lalo and your hog attacks, making them go outside the base in order to attack an extra troop, kind of splitting them up so that you can't heal both at the same time. Another one would be your giant bomb placements, not putting them so close together so that one heal can cover both of them is is key in there as well, because you're kind of giving a free heal away to the opponent during their attack. So
I mean, I know that when I'm building a base, I love to put 2 giant bombs together, along with maybe a wizard tower, so that as soon as the bombs blow up, they're still getting hit with the wizard tower, and hopefully takes most of the hogs down. Is that, you just said to not do that?
And it comes into play at Town Hall 9 more, yes. And it's only when you know that a certain pathing will get your hogs to come through there as well. And I didn't touch on this, but you do not want any, if only a couple of traps by your queen, because most of the time you've got, golems going in, and they kind of really soak up all of those traps and make them kind of worthless to your base as well. But I don't know, I kind of stray away from that at, even Town Hall 9, I don't like to do that, only because if it doesn't work, you're wasting that giant bomb.
Right.
And I agree totally with that. I'm not a big proponent for the double great bomb, especially after the upgrades they gave to a lot of traps, a few months ago. One giant bomb, at Town Hall 11, will take bowlers down to 1/4 hit points from full. So it's doing 3/4 of their damage of their hit points. So 2 archer shots, a cannon shot, an expo on them, and they go down fast.
Even a single target or a multi-target inferno, if you have a multi-target inferno on one boulder and he gets struck by a giant bomb, he's immediately gone. You can call it goodbye.
So why not place all 5 bombs in separate areas so that they are more effective overall?
Yeah, fair enough.
And again, you kind of want to look at what defenses are going to be hitting those troops at the same time. And in as many cases as you can, you want a splash defense as well as a single target defense targeting all troops at the same time, or at least as many as you can. Because you've got your splash defenses targeting your witches, your golems, or whatever it be, and then a giant bomb hits them, and oh no, you have to kind of plan against that. So,
right,
really, and again, like you've got your scout attacks. They'll go in and they'll find some of the traps, but they won't know where all of them are. So again, placing them, in more erratic but planned areas is definitely key. It used to be the double giant bombs were key, but no longer.
Right.
I mean, the other thing that leads into that as well is that you need to leave lots of 2 gap spaces and 1 gap spaces in your base design so that it's not apparent where your traps are. You got to leave your opponent guessing.
Gotcha. And so, I know just as key as, bombs are, we got to think about spring traps, especially when you're dealing with hogs, and, other small armed like bowlers, troops, who we love to see as defenders then bounce off the screen. How do you guys place those?
I think a great image for this would be the ones with the check marks and the X's on them, and only because it allows for an easy explanation on it. But you've got it pulled up there. You've got an archer tower and a cannon, or 2 cannons, like in this photo. Like on the very left side, you've got 2 cannons that are parallel with each other, and then you've got that 1 spring trap in between them. Well, your hogs will go in between there. They'll go to the next cannon, and 1 or 2 of them will swing up in the air. And then if you go a little bit to the right, you see how they're more diagonal. You've got 1 tile offset, and then you've got 2 tile offsets from each other. That will actually spring up to 3 hogs, I believe, maybe 4. I don't think 4 yet, but they'll spring up to 3 hogs, and it's a lot more chances of actually springing 3 hogs almost every time. That 3rd hog is extremely important, and they're just gone. It's not like they're being melted down by being hit from defenses. They're just gone from a spring trap. So definitely placing them in between 2 defenses is almost always key. You don't want them outside of your base. You don't want a space to be on one side of it and a defense on the other. Placing them so that your hogs, or even anything really, is going to be walking through that area will spring them.
Gotcha.
And the reason to not leave that extra gap, like a 2 gap spring, is the spring trap has a brief moment of almost like a countdown before it goes off. So if something walks over it and then walks off it, it will trigger the spring trap without being sprung away. The reason that you keep only 1 gap is the troop theoretically is going to stop at the next defense. So it triggers the trap and then stands on top of it until the spring trap goes off.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yep, and that plays a lot along with what the troop's speed is as well. Like you've got goblins, fastest troop in the game. They will run right over a spring trap, and then like seconds later, this thing will pop off where nothing happened from the spring, and it's kind of useless at that point.
Right.
Again, that plays in key into belt attacks. That'll spring up, maybe 1 belt, but the offset of the 2 will spring 2 belts up in the air. So definitely, like placing them so that any troop, essentially, even a broken golem, those things will go up in the air from a spring trap as well. So
Right, and I definitely see what you mean. That's pretty self-explanatory to making sure that the spring traps are just really in between 2 defenses, so that troops hold on it and you just watch them disappear. Good.
Again,
go ahead.
And again, you really don't want them near high-value areas where you've got a kill squad going in, because Queen doesn't care about it. Golem, full health golems don't care about it. King doesn't care about it. And those things will walk right over them. Whereas your troops coming in afterwards, your Valks, your bowlers, your hogs, your broken columns, are going to actually set those off. So don't place them near high value hint queen areas.
Right, right. And I noticed, like, can I go back to the giant bombs? I noticed a couple of one of these pictures that you put here that will be uploaded on the video has a couple small bombs also next to it. So what's the purpose of that?
Are you talking the one with the spring as well near the small bomb?
Yeah, there's that one, and then right above it there's the giant bomb with two bombs as well.
Yeah. So that it's more like doing thinking about how much damage you want to put into certain troops that'll be walking through that area. Unexpected damage, because you not only see that small bomb that's near the giant bomb, or you'll see the spring trap set off, but there's also a small bomb there. Especially with your hogs, they're going to come in, they'll hit the small bomb, but they'll also spring the trap. And I like to also, in those areas that are definitely way across from the queen, you've got cannon, archer tower, compartment, and you have a spring trap between them. I'll put a small bomb on the outer end, just to the right, one tile from the spring trap, and then I'll put a skeleton right on the other side. So you've got a skeleton, a spring trap, and a small bomb, and all of those not only target toward your hogs, but cause trouble for your witches walking around, or any troop. It'll slow down your queen walk if you start that queen walk there. Every single defense comes into play. So
gotcha.
And another aspect is the small bomb isn't just an explosion. It knocks the troops backwards. So if you can actually put a small bomb past the big bomb, any troop that triggers the big bomb, and again it has a countdown, the small bomb will push them back into the explosion that moved out of the explosion.
Oh, okay. I've never thought about that. Makes sense.
Yeah, that small bomb pushback is what gives you advantage for using it to defend against wall breakers breaking into your base, or whether you're using it to make the troops back off from a defense so it takes them longer to take it out. Because if they get up to a defense and then they get blown back by a small bomb, they have to walk towards the defense again before they can continue attacking it.
Right. And I guess that brings up another point. So making sure your small bombs, are located in strategic areas outside of those ones we just discussed, to ensure wall breakers from making their way to the wall. Do you guys recommend putting them maybe closer to the queen side, so that as people try to put the kill squad down there to penetrate for the queen and CC, for the small bombs to kill the wall breakers? That's something you guys recommend?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think it's good. The first thing to remember is, in order for a small bomb to be effective against the wall breaker, it needs to be placed one square away from the wall. If it's placed right beside the wall, because it has that countdown before it triggers, the wall breaker will actually explode and damage the wall before the small bomb affects it in any way. So make sure to keep it at least one square away from the wall you want to protect. And the other thing is your base is always going to be organic, and you're going to need to start with an initial trap placement, and then as you watch it get attacked, your traps will change and develop into places where you are watching the troops go, where people are attacking with their queen walks, and so on.
Gotcha. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's stuff you don't think about. I honestly just make a base and pray it holds, and whether it does or doesn't.
Sorry about that. I was on mute.
No, you're good.
So I really wanted to add on to that. I was talking and couldn't get in there. But anyways,
go ahead.
If you see that image with the small bomb just outside the air defense and the cannon there, you see the separation between the two buildings on the outside. the skeleton or the wall breakers will actually go between two. They will always go between buildings, and they're going to target toward the path of least resistance. So separating the buildings on the outside by one tile forces the wall breakers to walk between those two buildings. And then what you do, you put a small bomb there, and it'll be triggered by the wall breaker going in perfectly. It's almost like you set up that plan, and also tricking people to think that there's going to be one there, and they attack from another end, and it's there. So it's all about kind of forcing people into a certain attack and then punishing them for it. But I wanted to add on as well. You've got, like Impaler was saying, one tile away from the walls. That doesn't come into play when you're raging your wall breaker. Your wall breakers, the wall will run faster through a rage. So wherever you think they're going to rage a wall breaker during, a queen walk or whatever it be, 2 tiles away will kill rage wall breakers, whereas 1 tile away from the wall will kill regular wall breakers. So again, in areas where you've got your trash buildings further away, or where they're going to place them further away, they're going to tend to lean toward raging the wall breakers in, so that they have a less of a chance of getting targeted by buildings. So
makes sense. Makes sense.
And I was going to say, people need to keep that in mind for all trap placement, that any troop under rage is got an increase to its speed. So that countdown timer that most traps have, like the spring trap and the bombs, is they need to make sure that those troops aren't just going to race right over those traps, and then when the trap actually goes off, it has absolutely no effect on the troops. So putting high hit point buildings in a high traffic rage area is great to slow those raged troops down so that the traps do have an effect.
And again, with high hit point targets or high hit point buildings, you kind of want to place those touching or near lower hit point buildings, like your defenses. So a storage next to an archer tower, or anything of that sort. And again, when thinking about hit points, your resource collectors have more hit points than like a barracks. So again, with your boulder bounces, you want to make sure that you place the higher hit point building behind the lower hit point building, so that the boulder bounce can't actually target it.
Fair enough. All right, and then lastly, guys, what do you guys think about the air traps? Like, what do you do with the black air mine and the red air mine?
I think so. As far as your seeking air mines, your SAMs, and then the black ones, and then the rest, you just red bombs, air bombs. Air bombs, you've got your they'll target multiple troops. You've got your balloons. They'll do damage to a huge pack of balloons. Forcing a blower to push them toward that is definitely a key. But putting those towards your wizard towers is almost always a great idea. You putting 1 to maybe even 2 of your red air bombs near a wizard tower with a blower pointing toward them is death for any balloon. 2 hits from a wizard tower and a red bomb is death completely. With your seeking air mines, your black bombs, placing them outside of the base has been pretty much meta now, because it stops your clean walks, takes down healers, putting them in areas where you're actually going to have your clean walk, or place your hound to go in. It destroys those hounds, whereas your red bombs destroyed balloons. I think putting them toward air defenses was meta. It's a little less meta now, but it's good because your hound will target right towards your air defenses, and you want that down fast, and that's exactly what the black bombs do.
Yeah, I think it comes down to realizing that the air bombs and air traps are really only going to defend against healers in queen walks or where they're heel mass bowler, or they're going to take down the hounds, which are the quintessential part of a decent air attack. So in Town Hall 9 and Town Hall 10, where you get attacked a lot more with air attacks, those are the times when there's justification to keep your black bombs beside your air defense, so that as soon as that hound gets there, it takes a bunch of damage, it goes down before it takes out your air defense, and then your air defense is beating on your boons. Whereas in Town Hall 11, air attacks aren't as frequent, but queen walks are so strong that placing them on the outside, like Jeff said, to take out healers, because one black bomb will take out one healer, is a first strong. Right? Yeah.
And again, I just think it's really frustrating, especially at the Town Hall 11, whenever you do indeed plan for a queen walk by placing your bombs or your air mines outside, and then they break in with that queen, and maybe you only took down one healer, but those healers stay alive and keep everything else alive. That's really frustrating.
And that hits on another point where you start with the queen walk, and then you use Copo Loom, and they take out the black bomb like it was nothing. A great way to kind of target around that is your queen walks usually, if it's not a queen charge, they're going to go around the outside of the base to a sense, where putting your black bombs so that they're not going to be targeted by those balloons, meaning away from, so that their ring outside does not interlap with the passing of a balloon or, the normal passing of a balloon to that defense. But when your queen's walking, the healer will actually intersect with that black bomb. It takes down your main target, which is, the healers coming through.
I think you might be able to bring up a visual to kind of demonstrate, but you can also use two black bombs to almost trick your opponent and have that loon take out the first bomb, but the second bomb will get one of its healers. The main goal here is taking out one healer makes the queen not stay up without rage because there's not enough heal on her. Whereas if the loon takes out the bomb first, that's 5 troop spaces that now this attacker has to give up in order to protect against that. So keeping in mind when a loon is placed that it goes straight towards a defensive building, if you could place your black bomb out of that line, you're more likely to hit the healer on the queen walk than you are to have it taken out by the loon.
And just to hit back on basically what we're talking about, the air defenses or the air traps, I want to talk about Town Hall 9 a little bit, focus on it. It used to be long ago, years ago, that people would have their air defenses right in the core of the base. And once people figured out, sweet lalo, you can easily target your balloons, your balloons in the whole base in a perfect circle, and it takes out the whole base. Well, that's kind of come back in a little bit. People really don't like the look of it, only because it comes back to old meta, but it's key when you put your air defenses in the middle, and then put your almost, if not all of your black bombs near those air defenses, because, your hounds come in, they target those air defenses, and it takes them down almost immediately. They're gone. And now your balloons have nothing to kind of take for them. So bringing that back in a little bit with your air defenses in the core, that's another great way to kind of plan out your bases, even with Town Hall 10.
Gotcha.
Yeah, well, I mean, we also should touch base on skeleton traps and what they mainly focus on, which would be that their main purpose is to stall the attackers, so that the attackers are focusing on taking out the skeletons while they're being defeated by your defenses. So placing skeleton traps in areas where they're going to distract troops while the troops are taking maximum defensive damage is really key too.
It's perfect, because I actually had a Town Hall 9 that, you know, in essence, the base was perfect, but it was being destroyed by attacks like all the time. And I was like, why is this happening? And it essentially came down to me moving my skeleton traps, actually, to kind of, because they would come in with a queen walk or, you know, a kill squad, and the queen walk would just kind of ramble right through, and I had my skeletons on the other end to protect from hogs. But moving those skeletons into high DPS zones with also a wizard tower in that area as well is so key. It'll take out hogs. It'll slow down the queen because it takes her longer to actually get through there. She's got to take down four more troops from there, and away from the CC. Once the CC is gone, she triggers that skeleton trap, and it causes a whole bunch more time taking them down in the base, and time is always a key factor in attacks.
So
I was going to say, and people always ask, you know, should I set skeletons to air or should I set them to ground? And I mean, in the current meta system we are now, and I mean, I don't know when somebody's going to be listening to this, but ground attacks are super strong, Town Hall 10, Town Hall 11, so there's a, you know, good reason to keep most of them on ground. But at Town Hall 9 or even Town Hall 10, if you find that you're getting attacked by air attacks quite frequently, even just one skeleton trap set to air will wreak havoc on an air attack, because hounds do not target skeletons. Loons do not target skeletons. So if the hound doesn't pop, those skeletons will continue to beat on their troops until something deals with them.
Absolutely. And I do want to talk specifically about defenses, but we're talking about air and grounds. Coming into your expos, a lot of people always use their air expos. Excuse me. They always use their air expos. Placing it, and it comes down to, you know, you've got your tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 Town Hall 10s, and you've also got your Town Hall 9s. I also use, you know, rarely on Town Hall 9s, but I'll use a ground expo behind an air expo, because then you've got the attacker taking on even more DPS from behind of the other expo. So definitely look into that as well. But when you put something like that, you want to have air defenses around it, because obviously you're not targeting air with that expo. So again, really good placement, or at least distribution of air and ground targeting defenses is key as well.
Gotcha. All right. Anything else, guys?
Oh, I'm sure I could add so many different things about how troops behave and the way that they focus on defenses and buildings and their movements. And I strongly recommend people that are interested in learning more about the way that troops behave will really affect how they design their buildings. And I mean, because we can go on for days, we can either wait, I guess, for weeks, or, you know, I strongly recommend them look at videos on YouTube or find other resources to learn about how the behavior really affects your defense.
Definitely. I mean, I know if you are in the EYG, you can definitely hit up the EYG mail. We have a couple builder guides that we can send you if you are really interested in getting to know and work on base building yourself. Or obviously you can hit up one of these guys and they'd be more than happy to give you a basic breakdown outside of just this video of, you know, base building. So
absolutely, anytime. There's also a base building server that we can give you a link to. It'll also be on our server as well.
Yep. So, all right, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming on today. It's been a fun time, and all right, EYG, I appreciate you listening. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below us. And all right, AA on out.